Hello, everybody. This is lesson number 63, um, and it's called A Five Cow Wife. So, Five Cow Wife, I have to set up a story. Back in the old days, there was this society, and they had the common practice that a man, to get a wife, had to pay a bride price. He had to give the father of the woman some money, some goods. And in this society, cattle were very valuable. And this system worked out pretty good, even though some people may not like it now, because first of all, it made sure the man had enough extra money, extra resources that he could support a wife. Secondly, it also made sure that he really wanted a wife, because a wife was a very expensive thing. It took a man working hard at least 2 or 3 years to build up enough extra resources to have a spare cow that he could just give away. Cattle were wealth. And so it made sure he had the resources to take care of a wife. It also made sure that he really wanted a wife. Fourth, it also kind of compensated the family of the girl, because the family lost all of her work as she went to live with the man, and they lost all of her contribution to the family. And the fourth thing it did was it actually kind of redistributed wealth around the area, so that, as you know, no family um, got a short supply, and maybe the daughters, as it's a man that had all daughters and maybe didn't have the sons that came through. So it kind of had a socializing, equalizing effect in society. So it had four good points, and it seemed to work pretty well. And on average, a girl was probably, most women went about 2 cows. And this was kind of a problem now, because it wasn't quite all equal, because you could have a real ugly, terrible looking girl, and she might only get 1 cow. That would, if she was, a father was offered 1 cow, would, the woman always felt kind of bad. She was only a 1 cow wife, and she didn't make the average 2 cow wife. And then there might be a real beauty, a real dreamy girl, and she'd be a 3 cow wife. And a man that would pay 3 cattle for a wife, he was buying a Ferrari. He really wanted this woman. And there were some girls that they might command that big a price, but 90% or more women went for 2 cattle, and that was just kind of the way it went. And that's how the society went on for hundreds and hundreds of years this way. Well, there was this guy, and he had 2 daughters. And the one daughter was gorgeous. She was a 3 cow wife. She was a Ferrari. She was a Lamborghini. She was a beautiful woman. Everyone wanted her. And the father, in fact, she was so gorgeous and so valuable that the father wasn't even going to jump on the chance to get 3. If somebody offered him 3 cattle, he might not take it. He might ask the girl, he would say, do you want him or not? Because there was probably 2 or 3 guys that would offer 3 cattle for this beautiful woman. Well, a rich man did come a courting, and he had 3 extra cattle. He was a very wealthy, successful man. He was a good trader. He was a very shrewd businessman. He'd amassed a pretty good herd of cattle, and he came calling. And the father was pretty happy, because this guy was very wealthy, and he would give his daughter a good home. She'd have a good life, healthy grandchildren, well cared for grandchildren. He was pretty happy about this. So the guy came in, and he talked to the man, and then he met with the family, and there was the feeling out process, and the father was a little got to be a little suspicious, because he had another daughter. She was kind of plain and homely, and she'd be lucky to get 2 cattle. She might even be 1 cow wife. But the businessman talked to her as much as the pretty daughter, and the father was kind of like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he thought, "Is this guy going to try to negotiate with me? Is he going to try to only offer me 2 cattle for this super daughter of mine and get a bargain?" And he thought, "This rotten SOB. What in the heck?" And he said, "This guy he's a real," because he had a reputation. This rich man had a reputation of being super smart and always getting the better end of the deal, and always winning every negotiation. And so he thought, this guy is going to try to offer me only 2 cattle for my beautiful 3 cow daughter. And He did. He talked, and he kind of ignored the beautiful girl, and he was talking to the homely one just as much, if not more. And the father was had a real dilemma. He thought, well, do I tell him no and let him marry my beautiful daughter and only get 2 cattle out of it? But I know my daughter will be more happy with him, and he's really a good guy. He's just such a hard businessman. I should I sacrifice that 1 cow for my daughter's happiness and the better off of my grandchildren? And he was kind of just kicking that around in his head, and he thought, man, he's wealthy enough to give me the 3 cows for my daughter. This is silly. He's such a jerk. And but he didn't. He kind of had made up his mind. He said, if he offers me the 2 cattle, I'll take it because my daughter will be happier and better off with him than it would another guy who's less capable of a man and offers me 3 cattle. And the day came after a couple more days of him talking to the daughter and talking to his family and being around. The father and the potential son-in-law, future son-in-law, went in to negotiate and talk. And he said, I have something to talk about. And the father's kind of heart sank, and he kind of knew what was going to happen to him. And the future son-in-law said, I want to offer you, your daughter is wonderful. She's the most beautiful, intelligent, capable woman I've ever seen. I want to offer you 5 cows for her. And the father's jaw hit the floor, because there had never been a 5-cow wife. I don't even know if there had ever been a 4-cow wife. 3 cows was as good as any beauty queen was ever going to get. And the father couldn't even talk. He went, okay. He didn't even know. And this businessman said, okay, I want and it was actually the younger daughter he wanted. It wasn't the beautiful daughter. It was kind of the plain, simple girl. And the father went, what? And he says, yes, I don't want your older daughter. I want the younger daughter. I want the beautiful one. And he said, well, she's not the beautiful one. Everybody wants the older, more beautiful one. He says, no, she's the better one. I want her. And the father went, okay, oh my God, all the stories I've heard of this guy's wisdom and this guy's brilliance and how good of a negotiator he is, he's an idiot. He said, he could have got her for 1 cow. And so he said, sure, you could have her, take her. And so the smart businessman, or supposedly smart businessman, left with the younger, plain daughter and went back to his village. And everybody in the town laughed at the businessman. The father was like, I got 5 cows for her. Can you believe it? And they thought, is he crazy? Did he get touched in the head? He took the plain girl for 5 cows. And he went off to his village. And so after a couple, 2 or 3 years, one of the people from the original village, the father's village, went to visit the other village for some traveling and talked to this, went to visit because he knew this girl when they'd grown up together. And he said, came back and he said, I went to see her, and she's the most beautiful, intelligent, magnificent woman I've ever met. And the people of the village said, no, she was kind of plain and awkward. He said, no, when I greeted her, she met me and she looked like royalty. And everyone in that village talks about how brilliant and how intelligent this man is, that he searched the world and has the finest wife on the planet. He has he has what no other man has. He has a real 5-cow wife. And how this brilliant rich man has a wife 10 times better than anyone else's wife. She walks with beauty through the marketplace. Everyone wishes to look at her. Everyone wishes to be in her presence. Every man wishes just to look upon her. Everyone wants to hear her wisdom and seeks out her opinion. And the father and the other men of the village said, I don't think this is possible. And the traveler from the first village says, I didn't either. We used to play together when I was a little kid. And she was a little girl. I mean, she was 10 years old. No, we didn't know this about her. And the father thought this was very strange. And about 6 months later, the traveler, I guess the woman, wanted to come back and visit her family. And so they made a trip, and she came back to her old village, and they could not believe how brilliant she was, and how beautiful she was, and how regal she was. And the father looked at her, and he couldn't believe that his plain younger daughter, the simple, plain, almost homely one, was. And he wanted to talk to the man, his son-in-law, and his son-in-law said, "Hi, how are you doing?" And the father was just stunned, and he said, "What have you done to my daughter? What happened?" And he said, "I've done nothing to your daughter. I've just revealed who she was. I recognized what she was. No one here could." And the father went, "You mean she was that beautiful and that majestic all along?" And the husband said, "Yes, I recognized right away that she was one of the most beautiful, rare creatures on this planet, the greatest woman ever." And the father said, "How could no one else know that? How come no one else here recognized what she really was?" And the man said, "Well, I guess she never gave a chance. And as she grew up, no one ever let her see what she really was." And the father then made a next statement. He said, "But you could have bought her for 2 cows. In fact, you could have bought her for 1 cow. There was nothing special about her. When you offered 5 cows, you were a fool. You wasted 4 cows. You could have got her for 1 cow and took her away." And the rich man, the wise man, the traveler, the son-in-law said, "No, I wanted a 5-cow wife. And if I had bought her for 1 cow, she would have been a 1-cow wife. I wanted a 5-cow wife, and I had to pay 5 cows for her. And since I did that, she saw her true worth and saw somebody believe that in her and could see finally what she was really worth. And now I have a 5-cow wife, which is what I always wanted." And in all the world, she was the only 5-cow wife, because all of you could not see that. She could not see that. But now, everywhere I go, every village I travel to, everyone on earth we meet sees her for what she really is, a 5-cow wife. And I had to pay the price of a 5-cow wife if that's what I wanted. And the father dropped his jaw and said, "Oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. I couldn't even see I had a 5-cow daughter. And then I couldn't even see that that's what I had made her. I'd reduced the value of my daughter to 1 cow. She was only a 1-cow daughter, or a 2-cow daughter at most. And she was a 5-cow daughter all along, and I'd never treated her that way, and I'd never let her know her true value." So anyway, that's a story. I think it's a pretty valuable story. A lot of girls need to hear that. And just so you know, my wife has a bracelet, and she loves silver more than gold. And she has 6 cows around this bracelet. I think they were 4-H cattle. I had to go search all over the internet, and I got a beautiful charm bracelet, and she has 6 cows around her, so that she's even more than a 5-cow wife. I told her that story long ago, and at our wedding, I gave her a 6-cow bracelet. And actually, I gave her a 6-cow bracelet, not a 5-cow bracelet, because my wife is a mathematician, and she has a bizarre thing about even numbers that she vastly prefers to odd numbers, so I couldn't give her a 5-cow bracelet. So lessons, some of the takeaways of this are, some things you can't skimp on. If you want a 5-cow wife, you're going to have to let her know she's a 5-cow wife. I actually also had to do that with my wife's car. I got her a new car, which I think is dumb. but I wanted her to know that I valued her enough to have a new car and not a old clunker that I thought she should have, which was um, just because that was something that I had to let her know. And then the second takeaway maybe is you have to see what the potential is. I've seen it's kind of the what people are. People are not what they are. As Nietzsche said, the great thing about man is not he's a destination, he's a bridge. You ought to see where people are going and what they're growing into. That's sort of the Pygmalion principle from My Fair Lady. You know what he couldn't even see what she had become because he was blind. And a lot of people are stupid. They are just ignorantly stupid and don't see the value of anyone. And they don't see where people are. I've seen um, I've seen girls that were the chubby, pimply faced little fifth grade girl, and they never felt anywhere past that. And same thing with boys. I've seen the boy that wasn't, he was kind of the baby fat, unathletic boy, and he grew up later and it didn't affect him. And then another takeaway is it isn't so important if it isn't where you can't come out of something. You can't just take, you can't, you just, what is in you has to come out. You couldn't just take any woman and turn her into a 5 cow wife. It had to be in there. So the brilliant man did recognize what she was, but the people have a lot more potential. I think Michelangelo said he spent as much time looking for the piece of marble to carve as he did carving. He wanted to make sure there was really that quality. So, any questions? No. Oh, did that one? Oh, that one hits you. You want to come in here and play around, but now that one hits you, huh? All righty. I'll talk to you later.